G'day. I used to find that there were certain people that used to just push my buttons, and get under my skin. And not just find there were certain types of people, whether it was work colleagues or even just as I was getting around, doing the shopping or, out having fun, doing whatever. There'd always seem to be, that guy or that woman or whatever, that person. And for the longest time, I just thought, well, there you go. Those people, they're everywhere, and thankfully they're not everyone. But I'll know them when I see them, and I've just got to avoid them wherever possible. And as soon as I realise that that's kind of who I'm dealing with, then give them a wide berth, But I didn't realise. I thought that I'd come up with a valid solution to that problem, and that that's just the way it is. So that's how I need to roll. But it was actually I was really seriously missing a point, and the point is that it wasn't about them, not at all. And that can sound. I've heard that sort of said before, and it's like, that sounds fine. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, it is about them, because they're the ones behaving the way they're behaving, and that's causing me to feel the way I feel. And but the truth is that it's actually is not about them, and the reason for that is that the way that they're behaving, what they're saying, what they're doing, and how that's making me feel is about me, because I'm only feeling a certain way about it, feeling like I don't like it, it pushes my buttons, makes me angry, makes me sad, makes me feel like I'm, humiliated or rejected or not enough, and that's the reason, is that what I'm doing without knowing I'm doing it, when I'm having those experiences with those people, is unconsciously I'm assessing those experiences. And it's the egoic aspect of me that's doing that assessment for me on my behalf. And the reason it's doing it is because it's committed to my survival and always has been. But it's basing its assessment of that experience that I'm having with that person on my set of fundamental beliefs that are limiting beliefs that I made up as a very young child, which back then served me in relation to surviving, but no longer serve me. But I'm still assessing my experiences in life based on those childhood wounds, essentially. And so what happens is, somebody will say something, I'll think that's good or bad or right or wrong, and I'll feel a certain way. I'll have thoughts about it, And those thoughts and feelings, all they are is they're not the result of that person and what they're saying or doing. They're the result of my egoic assessment about what they're saying or doing. And that assessment is based on how I believed it was when I was a child, like the beliefs I made up as a child about the way it is. So my wounded child's beliefs about the way it is in the world, the way I am, the way others are, the way the world is. And I'm still using those beliefs to assess that situation. And then it's pissing me off, I'm deciding that annoys me, or that doesn't work for me, or I don't like it, Because the truth of the matter is, that person's just saying something. That's what's going on. We're having an interaction. And the interaction actually doesn't mean anything about me. What they're saying means more about them, where they're coming from. If it's stuff that I perceive is hurtful towards me or whatever, it could be that they're feeling powerless in their own life and unconsciously projecting that onto me to kind of use the experience to try and feel a sense of power in that moment, So what they're saying is not to do with me. It's not about me, even though it looks and sounds and feels like it is. But my experience that I'm having in relation to it, that's about me. And that is my responsibility, not theirs. So what I used to do was I used to get into trying to control other people. Don't say that, bugger off sort of thing, or I'd bugger off. and I'd try and control. I'd try and control and change what was going on. What that meant was I was trying to control the conditions in my life that I believed, weren't good enough, that I believed needed to change. Essentially what I was telling myself was that my happiness relied on others, and what they did or didn't do. And it was a completely disempowered state to be in because I can't control others. I might think I can, and I definitely did. I had a crack at it and thought that, yeah, there we go, said my piece, that stopped that. But I was still the one living the lie, living that misconception about the agendas of others, what they say or do or don't do or whatever. That's what's got the power in my life. Not me, I'm just powerless to it. So essentially I'm a victim to that and to those people. So when I started to realise the truth of what was going on, then I started to take responsibility for that. And believe it or not, everything changed. So, and you can see how it would. It just makes sense. Because once I started to take responsibility, what that meant was that when I was experiencing people saying things that I used to habitually reject or feel wounded by, I just started to see that where that was coming from, where those feelings were coming from, and suspend the feelings, And by suspend the feelings, what I mean is don't react. Typically I'd react. I'd feel like, well, I've got to respond here right now. And immediately, they've said something like a game of tennis. Ball's in my court. I've got to stand up for myself. And just, seeing more and more experiences of that playing out in my life and just thinking like, well, that's life, it's just going to happen. But when I started to realise that that's on me, that's about me taking responsibility for my own happiness, my own thoughts and feelings, and no longer being guided by the thoughts and feelings, because not guided, but controlled by them, even governed by them. We're typically governed by our thoughts and feelings because we never pay any attention to where they're coming from. Once you realise that your thoughts and feelings are coming from that limited, self-limited aspect of you, that wounded child who believed things to be a certain way back then, and you're still being governed in your life, and your orientation in life is still being dictated by those beliefs that are driving up those thoughts and feelings, then you're going to just see more experiences of that, and you're going to remain a victim to that dynamic, but not because you're actually powerless to it. Instead, because you're choosing to be powerless to it. And it's not a conscious choice. It's because, for me and for a lot of others, we're just unaware of what the dynamic is that's getting to play out there. And we remain in this powerless state in relation to it when we don't have to. So when you find yourself in the next, and you will, in the next experience, sort of having a less than desirable interaction with somebody else, and you go to sort of that knee-jerk reaction of this is their fault, I can't believe they're treating me like that. Just take a moment and go, hold on a minute, yeah, I'm pissed off. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings right now? And just get a bit of clarity on that, And once you do, remind yourself, well, I know where they came from, those thoughts and feelings, and they're an extremely limited and at best very unreliable guide in my life about the truth of things and about whether or not I'm powerless and about what I need from everybody else in order to be happy in life. Because then you start to become the origin of your own happiness, in other words, self-referenced in relation to that. So your happiness is your responsibility, and you'll notice that you'll start to be more happy because it's coming from within you, and you're no longer putting the power outside of yourself and blaming and judging others when they, in your egoic assessment, fall short of the way you think they should be behaving in relation to you. So check it out. Suspend the thoughts and feelings. They're bullshit more times than not, if not all the time. And just check out being with what's going on and not reacting. And then you can take it further and choose to see what's going on from a higher perspective. Even if you don't know what that is, just know there's always a higher perspective. There's a higher and there's a lower. When we play in the lower, we experience a lower experience to what's available to us. But when we choose to just suspend all of that and to observe the higher perspective, or observe what's going on from a higher perspective, then you start to have a different experience to what you've ever had before. So check it out. Put some comments in the box below, because Christmas time is going to be a great time, when we're getting around loved ones and family, and for old patterns to play out. When people are unaware, we fall into our unconscious default mode of awareness. It's our autopilot kicks in, and that's why we so often find ourselves, having rows and fights with loved ones, and then often feeling really regretful or feeling justified usually afterwards, because we justify our actions, what we said, what we did, based on, it was justified because that person, treated me in that way. So there's a whole lot more potential for love and connection and happiness when you start to suspend those thoughts and feelings. So look forward to hearing from you and hearing about your experience applying this, and see what happens. So have an amazing Christmas, and talk to you soon.